Hello everyone, and welcome to my first 2v2 multiplayer Warhammer Total War video. In this match, I joined up with a random player that was playing vampire counts, and I'm like, you know what? We'll both go vampire. We're fighting against both the Dwarfs and the Warriors of Chaos. They have the defense while we have the attack, and I'm looking at the map and I can already see what's gonna happen. We're placed in the valley, and I'm thinking, okay, there's no way we're going down the middle. The dwarf more than likely has artillery and siege weapons, and they're getting ready to set up a defense up there. To use this against them, simply we'll just go up on the side of the hill, which will render almost all of the artillery to be completely useless, because we're simply using the hill as cover. I had a feeling that the dwarf was gonna set this up, because not only that, if we tried to go down the middle of the valley, they could just spray us with crossbows. They could charge down the hill, which would give them a huge advantage, and they have artillery. My army was compromised mostly of zombies, skeletons, and some grave guards. My secret weapon to break this game, or this match, was to use these crypt horror monsters to break the lines. The zombies would be expendable. They're going to absorb any cannon siege weapons. These hex rates are essentially what I'll use to flank around the enemy and hit him from behind. And I'll be using my Lord on a zombie dragon to give much needed support across the battlefield. My ally was also using Vargeist and Terrorgeist to flank around the map behind the enemy lines. Not to mention, he sent 2 grave guards on the other side of the map. I had these bats on this other hill just to use them as scouts, because since we have, the thing is, the enemy can't even see where our full army is because they don't have line of sight. Those bats gave me information of all we needed to know what flank to assault this hill on. It was strange that they were shooting cannons at it, but since we were able to scout, we can easily tell what the enemy's army is compromised of and what their weaknesses are. Both their generals are together in the middle. And I didn't really see too many ranged units. There was only 3 crossbow units for the dwarves. This player chose a lot of artillery and crossbows. The chaos player chose these chaos spawns with a giant and hell cannon. It's a dangerous combo, but one that can be broken. The zombies are only there to cause terror, to be expendable, and they're meat shields. Behind them is a line of skeleton warriors, and behind them is my heavy units, the Grave Guard. But what's the real unit that's supposed to break these lines are the crypt horrors. If the crypt horrors are unable to break the line quickly, I'll then use my zombie lord dragon to actually break the lines, not to mention use the spells. It seems that the chaos general was getting ready for our movements, not to mention that dwarf was sending his ranged units to support his friend. Luckily for us, these trees were blocking the shots from that hell cannon, so it was very ineffective as we were approaching. My friend continues to move his flying monsters behind the enemy lines. If we time this correctly, we could attack the defense on the hill from all sides. It took me a little bit of time to line up the entire formation, but once the charge started, there was no turning back. We already started the assault on the other side of the area. The grave guards were assaulting, and I was using my bats to attack the organ guns so they wouldn't fire at all. The dwarves would be distracted by the bats. The front lines are about to clash. the Vargeist and the Terrorgeist will go straight for the enemy's ranged units. Attacking these ranged units will prevent them from attacking my zombie dragon and the crypt horrors, which are destroying the front lines of the Chaos Warriors right now. The Chaos Warriors have their Chaos spawns, these monsters which are causing serious problems, but it's 3-to-1 in terms of monsters infantry. Not to mention I have a lot of ground support. My allies saw this opportunity to also move up four units of skeleton warriors to go right up to the front line and also attack those siege units. Unfortunately, the Terrorgeist was being surrounded. I was so busy micromanaging the front line that I completely forgot about the Hex Wraiths to support the Vargeists on the assault of the range units. I was focusing on spells and debuffs and all that. Not to mention my ally was also dealing with a group of Chaos Warriors and a Giant. He was holding his ground well, so that was props for him. I really needed to break this line as quickly as possible, so I brought in my zombie dragon. Using a couple debuff spells on the enemy Chaos Warriors, we were able to break their lines. The Chaos player noticed that his lines were breaking, and then he would send in his dragon as well. He was very unsure whether or not he wanted to attack with it because his entire front line already collapsed. Probably to cast some spells or reinforce the morale. My ally was attacking from all sides, which was a pretty good distraction. I was honestly just waiting for this dragon to come down and just move up the entire front line and head for the center of the hill. Take on those siege weapons. I was going to send my zombie dragon versus the Chaos Dragon, and they would fight in midair. However, the Chaos Dragon just dived straight in for my army, which was perfect. I then casted a direct damage spell, Spirit Leech, right on him, and it caused tremendous damage. It's a powerful spell against single targets. And then I casted a debuff and used all my units to surround the dragon and take it down, which resulted in a very quick death. With the Warriors of Chaos General down, the morale of the entire army is broken. We can now use this to our advantage and destroy the middle flank. Take the hill. Enemy giants on the run. We can now focus on taking the rest. I was busy casting spells and trying to do some damage. The Chaos Warriors had one of their strongest units right in the middle of the hill, the Chosen, which are holding that front line. I did forget one big thing though. I totally forgot about the siege weapons that the Dwarfs still have on the other side of the hill. Those organ guns. Those organ guns are essentially the biggest threat to my zombie dragon lord.
By all means. Sylvania rules the night.
The reason that the crypt horrors are not moving up still is because they're engaging the monsters of the chaos spawn. They're unbreakable. My ally was holding his ground pretty well, so that was good. However, I did not even pay attention to the fact that I have an organ gun firing at me and archers. I was too busy trying to kill off this chaos spawn where my crypt horrors just finished off. Those crossbows not being attacked and engaged were just putting volley after volley into my dragon, and I was noticing very quickly. It's like, oh shit. If I lose my lord, and this is the worst thing that can happen to you if you're playing vampire counts. If you lose your lord,
All life must
the entire skeleton armies and zombies will all just crumble and fall. That's an extreme risk of losing your lord.
Van Hell's dance
I knew quickly I just had to get out of that battle.
swift
Those heavy weapon hammers are chasing after my general, and I was able to call in my crypt horrors very quickly. The only threat right now remains those siege weapons, and I knew I had to take that out quickly. The crypt horrors will have no problem dealing with the dwarf infantry at all. There's enough manpower and enough undead to deal with the warriors of the dwarves. Removing these siege weapons will ensure victory for the undead.
Do not shame your ancestors. Blood kiss.
The Chaos Warriors are still completely broken. Their morale is completely shattered with the loss of their lord. The great thing about this strategy is I have so many like meat shield units, the zombies, the skeletons, that they're essentially protecting the crypt horrors from being attacked. To counter those crypt horrors, the enemy would require all of the majority of their crossbowmen and their siege weapons to focus on these monsters if they really wanted to kill it quickly. But for this game, we did pretty well in both attacking the crossbowmen and siege weapons from being fully utilized against us.
Attack.
At this stage, we are essentially just mopping up the enemy. Some of them are regrouping, some of them are still fighting on. The dwarf general is still at full health because I didn't focus in on him at all. I'm also very low in magic. I was using the majority of my magic to debuff the enemy front line. Even though that the dwarves are regrouping, this battle was just pretty much sealed. There's no way that the dwarves or the warriors of chaos can come back and kill all this monstrous infantry I have. They killed a lot of my zombies and skeletons, but that was the goal. It was more of a distraction for us.
I will do this by my will. All life must end.
I do like how the dwarves are charging back into the fray, but
Harvest them.
unfortunately against crypt horrors, not much you can do there. You would need long beards, you would need heavy weapons to take on those horrors.
Upgrade now.
They were very close in killing my lord though, and that would have been a game changer.
More on life.
That flamethrower infantry though. That flamethrower infantry killed a lot of men.
From the tombs.
The dwarf general being alone didn't have really much of a chance. The zombies were bothering it. The crypt horrors were doing heavy suppressive damage, and my zombie dragon was just doing massive bursts of damage. These are the final results of how many were killed. Though the dwarves, I took a lot of losses. I mean, that's the entire point for the vampire counts. They could take a lot of losses because I'm using a lot of meat shield infantry, expendable infantry. And we then exploit the weaknesses within the enemy army. We can replenish them very quickly. The plan worked. I lost a lot of grave guards, but the crypt horrors were able to move in unscathed, and they did a ton of damage. Not to mention the zombie dragon was also very useful in like destroying the lines from behind and attacking that siege weapon. Very crucial. The chaos player did pretty well as well. However, I'm pretty sure both the Dwarf and the Warriors of Chaos did not expect that their artillery would do so little damage at the early game. They probably were expecting us to go down the valley so they could just mop us up, but we turned the balance against them, and it was a pretty good fight for us. All we needed to do was close the gap, and we would do a ton of damage. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this multiplayer video for Warhammer Total War, and I'll see you next time.